Hi YouTube. So today is the first day that I'm actually alone with Logan, I guess. The postpartum nurse was here for the last time yesterday, and Rob is actually at work right now. So I can actually vlog without being interrupted by grown-ups. I might be interrupted by Logan, but right now he's sleeping, so I'm hoping he keeps on sleeping. So fingers crossed. So I wanted to update you guys on what happened during my labor and delivery. I completely failed at even keeping people off who follow me on Facebook updated because it was intense. It was a lot going on, and oh my goodness, it was meh. So either way, I have a whole list of all the times and whatnot that the nurses wrote down in my medical file, and they actually gave me a copy so I can see what happened at which time, which is neat because it's kind of a blur in my mind. So I was induced last Thursday, so Thursday, July 11th. I was exactly 38 weeks, and they induced me because my blood pressure kept being higher than I would like it to be, and I was having a lot of headaches and physical symptoms because of it. Not to mention that the mental problems were not the best either. I was really at the end of my rope, so they decided to induce me. They started with the monitor, so they monitored me for like a half an hour, starting from 8:30. So that's really early. They told me not to expect that, and we didn't like anticipate it. So Rob wasn't even near the hospital yet. He was actually still asleep. I had to call him and be like, "They're driving me to the labor and delivery room right now. You have to come, and they're starting things and you're not here." And well, it wasn't that dramatic, but I was really overwhelmed by the fact that it was that early, because I wasn't supposed to like be picked up to go to the labor and delivery rooms until like 10, and by 8:30 I was like there and hooked up to the monitor. And then at 9:20 I had my first internal exam, and it was really painful because Logan's head was really low, and she had to like lift up his head and feel behind his head because that was where my cervix was at. And she couldn't really reach it, so she said that she was going to give me the little tablet, the gel thing. Either way, because the cervix was just way too far back, so there was no way I was more than 2 centimeters dilated. Which, if you were, then they would start me on Pitocin. So right now they started me on a tablet, and I had to be on the monitor for another hour. And thank God, before they checked me, Rob was actually in the room with me. That was nice to have him right there. So after that hour of being on a monitor, after they inserted the gel tablet, they unhooked me and I was free to do whatever I wanted, because after they inserted the gel tablet, they're not going to do anything to you for like 4 hours unless you're like your water's breaking or you're actually having serious contractions, which none of that really happened. The only thing that the tablet really did is I got a little bit more like Braxton Hicks cramp kind of things and a lower back pain. Like I had severe lower back pain. Like I was like wobbling like a penguin and holding my back, like really pregnant wobbling, and I never really did that. So Rob and I decided to go for a walk after they unhooked me from the monitor, and basically we walked a lot. We walked the entire hospital, around the hospital, because it was quite nice weather outside. And after that we had some lunch, and at 1 I called the nurse to hook me back up into the monitor, because they like to put you on the monitor for like half an hour before you get checked again, just in case if you get checked and they need to do something else, they know how the baby responded to everything. So after that half an hour I got my internal exam, which was at like 2:10, and the midwife said I was 2 centimeters dilated, but that it was really hard for me to like relax enough for her to break my water, because my cervix was still far back, so she still had to like push his head away, which is really painful. So she didn't break my water, but she did put me on Pitocin, which is not their standard practice. They usually just break your water and then put you on Pitocin. So I was just on the Pitocin, and the moment they like put the IV in me, Rob placed the electrodes of the birthing tents on my back, just in case like the contractions would like be there right away, which again was not what people expected it to be, because I was put on a very low dose, and they were gonna like build it up every half an hour until I was having 3 contractions per hour. But just in case, I was experiencing some pain, we did hook up the birthing tents as well. At like 3:30, so like 3:30, I had some blood loss, but everything was fine. And at that point, my stepmom was there as well. She was supposed to like cover for Rob so he can go to his work. But since I was put on Pitocin, we figured that I was going to have contractions and I was going to go into labor. And it wouldn't be like doable if he would still go to work. If I would have been like on another tablet or, just still in the phase of ripening my cervix, he would have gone to his work, and then my stepmom would have been there with me. And we would have called him as soon as they would hook me up into the Pitocin. But since they already did that, we just called my stepmom to like let her know that they were going to do it and that she could come a little bit earlier, which she did, and it was nice to just have 2 people there to like support you. Let me see. So at 4:15, I was checked by the second midwife, so the midwife that had the evening shift, and she said I was only 1.5 centimeters dilated, and she said that I was probably not going to go any further than that unless she broke my water. So I just had to like suck it up and get my water broken, which was painful, but somehow it also was a huge relief, because the moment she broke my water, some of the tension from my back was like relieved. So that was nice. But from that point on, hell broke loose. Like I was already having like contractions that I could like deal with. They didn't even up my Pitocin at all. They just kept it to 2 milliliters per hour because I was having contractions. They just weren't like strong or long. They were just, getting started. So they figured if I would bring my water, then, my body would pick it up. And my body did pick it up. The contractions got like way stronger, way longer, way more frequent. And I couldn't just like talk through them anymore. And the birthing tents definitely didn't help anymore. There was no position I could be in that would relieve it even just a little bit, and there was definitely no position I could be in that was comfortable between contractions. And all this time I was hooked up onto the monitor, because that's what I would like to do once you were on Pitocin. And at some point, I don't remember, it doesn't say over here, we called the nurse, because I was having so many contractions, I could barely like breathe. So I wanted to like let them know that whatever was going on, it didn't feel right. I've had some breathing techniques from my pregnancy total fitness classes, and those really helped. But I could barely like finish up a technique and like take a new deep breath, and then another contraction would just come along. So at 5:45, the nurse talked it over with the midwife, and they suggested that I should be lowered in Pitocin. So instead of 2 milliliters, I was put onto 1 milliliter per hour, because they started counting my contractions like throughout the monitor, and I was having 6 to 7 contractions every 10 minutes. And I was having like good, decent contractions, like longer than 50 seconds. So that was really hard. It was really not that much fun. And 25 minutes later, so 6:10, they actually stopped my Pitocin because the lower doses just didn't make any difference. Contractions just keep on going. They were just as frequent, just as strong, just as long. Didn't make any difference. And then I got another check at 6:30, and I was still 2 centimeters dilated. And I think it's fair to say that that's the point where I just broke. The contractions were so painful, and they were so overwhelming. Like I like to believe that if I would have had like some breaks between my contractions, like some times, like just take a deep breath, take a sip of your water, just be able to do this, it wouldn't have been half as bad. But it was like the contraction came, and I'm like, and I could do that 3 times, and then I could be like, ugh, and then another contraction would start. It was like ridiculous. So at 6:30, we talked about pain medication. I didn't want it, and they didn't offer me. I asked, like, I'm like dealing with contractions for 4 hours now that are getting unbearable, and I'm still 2 centimeters. I need some help with this, and I just took their advice. They have different pain medication, but they offered me the epidural because I was only 2 centimeters dilated. If I would have been like 5 or 6, and I might not even have asked for pain medication, or I would have gotten a shot in my leg with some pain medication. But since I was only 2, the risk of getting the shot in your leg, you only have like 4 hours tops of relief, and they expected me to be in labor for another 8 to 10 hours. And after that shot, you cannot get another shot, and you are probably not being able to get an epidural either way because you're like too far dilated at that point. That's a possibility. So they suggested I should just go with the epidural like right away, since they only can give you 1 shot. And so they had to like call the anesthesiologist to like see when he had time to like have me come up and place the epidural, and yeah. The time between them, the midwife and the nurse, leaving my room and the moment I was being picked up to go to the anesthesiologist was horrible. The contractions were like getting worse and worse and more painful, and I just didn't know how to cope with them. I could not get through them anymore. To the point where like Rob kept pushing the alarm button, and my stepmom would like constantly walk into the hallway just to see if someone was coming to like let me know when the anesthesiologist had time. And I ended up going upstairs at like, I think like 7:15. So it was only like 45 minutes of waiting. But when you're in that much pain and you're waiting for your epidural, you don't want to wait longer than a minute. So 45 minutes was a long time. So once I was up with the anesthesiologist, they placed it like right away. Like he did such a good job. He like poked and it was right there. My blood pressure did drop, and I felt like I was gonna like faint, which is expected because that's what the epidural does. But Logan did not have any effects by the epidural. His heartbeat stayed strong. His movements were there. The contractions were still there. I didn't feel them. I just felt like my belly getting hard, but I didn't feel any pain. And at that point, the nurse discovered that I was also having an extremely full bladder, which is probably wasn't very helpful with all the contractions I was having. So I got a catheter, which I was supposed to get either way because of the epidural, but they just placed it a little bit sooner, just to help me empty my bladder. And then at like 8:15, I was back into the labor and delivery room. And they put me back onto the Pitocin just to make sure my contractions weren't stopping. And I got checked again, and I was immediately 3 centimeters dilated. So I was like, yeah, let's do this. This is awesome. Because I didn't feel that much. Like I felt like a stabbing pain, like right underneath my rib and like on my left lower like belly, but nothing compared to the contractions. So that was awesome. Let me see. So I was 3 centimeters dilated at 8:15. And at 9:30, I started puking, like puking. I got nauseous. My belly started hurting worse. Even I started getting feeling back into my belly, and I just puked. I puked everything out. You know, oh my goodness. There were not enough carton bowls, like the plastic bowl things that you have in hospitals for those kind of things. They didn't have enough in my room for that. It was really sad. But at that point, I just figured, oh, I must be progressing, because I remembered watching a video from Lucy from the Eats family that she always pukes right before she has to push. So I was like, oh, I'm getting close. So that was at 9:30, and then at 10 o'clock, my epidural disc was completely worn off. I did not have any pain relief. I was like back into those horrible pains and contractions that just wouldn't stop or wouldn't give me a break. And we called the nurse who asked the gynecologist to come because the midwives were just switching from shift. And the gynecologist said I was 5 centimeters dilated. And the nurse at that point asked me, or asked the doctor, do you, so can I just like up the epidural? Or what is your game plan? And he was like, no, she's fine. And he just walked out. And I was like holding on to like the bars of my freaking bed. And he just said, no, she's fine. No need to up the epidural. Nah. I don't like him. I just really don't. Okay. So, however, she did give me extra. She did up the epidural a little bit. She wasn't supposed to, but she did. Which was really nice of her because that was really not a pain. Not that the epidural actually helped. So that was at 10 o'clock. And then at 10:15, I just remember like pushing like my hands like this out to the like the bars of your bed, like the upper bars of your bed, and just saying like, I'm pushing, someone help me, I'm pushing, I don't want to push, being 5 centimeters dilated, someone help me, I'm pushing, I cannot stop, I'm pushing, you know. I just remember saying it over and over and over again. So Rob called the alarm bell thing again. They must have been going crazy because we kept pushing the bell. So at that point the midwife came. That was actually the afternoon midwife, I guess, the one of that shift, because they haven't fully like transferred every client yet to the midnight, to the night shift. So she came and she was like, well, you've been checked 15 minutes ago, but miracles do happen, so I'm just gonna check you again. And it was like the angel started singing, because she looked at me and was like, you are a miracle worker. You are 10 centimeters dilated, start pushing. So I was like, yay! It was like the angels like started singing and I was so freaking happy. It was ridiculous. At that point, I just forgot how much pain I was. I was like, I'm gonna push, yay, it's almost over. Little did I know. So, yeah. From 10:15, I started having like practice pushes with the nurse, but it was really crowded into the labor and delivery ward. So there was no midwife and there was like no gynecologist. I just was doing practice pushes with my nurse. And at some point, the midwife came back and she removed my catheter at 11 o'clock. So I was already pushing for 45 minutes. Nothing happened. As if I have to believe Rob and my stepmom from what they're saying, but they said that they could see his head the entire time, just like going forward and going backwards, going forward and going backwards. But I just wasn't strong enough to like make him go a little bit more further. And the midwife like was there from like 11 o'clock, and she kept like helping me to push right, like by inserting fingers and by saying push against my fingers, push them away, blah 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 blah. And at 11:15, she called for the gynecologist to let them know that I needed some assistance. She's like, I'm just gonna call the gynecologist to see if he can help you, probably with the vacuum pump. I don't know what it's called, but I think it's called the vacuum pump for you guys too. So that happened. So he came in at like 11:15. So I was already pushing for an hour, and he just like looked when I was pushing like 3 times, and he was like, yeah, you're not pushing strong enough, so there's no, and baby's like too far down or too far up yet, or still, so I'm not going to use the vacuum pump right now. And he just walked out. And at that point, I just got angry. I got so angry. And thank God, Rob got angry too, and my stepmom got angry too, and they were like, darn it, you're going to do it, and you're going to push this baby out, and you don't even going to need a freaking vacuum pump. You're just going to do it. Come on, you can do it. And they were so good at motivating me. And at that point, I did started pushing more effectively, I guess. But I was just so exhausted. I did not have this slightest pick of energy left. I was just done. So at 11:40, they took my catheter out and they stopped my epidural and upped my Pitocin, just in the hope I was gonna get more effective pushing contractions, like actual contractions, that I could like feel which way I was supposed to go, which really didn't happen. And then at like 10 before midnight, the gynecologist came back and he was like, okay, well, we're just gonna hook up the vacuum pump and see what we can do. So he like numbed me down there and he put the vacuum pump on Logan's head, and Logan was born 2 minutes after midnight. So he was born with a vacuum pump, and I did get an cut. How do you call it? I am not right with words right now. An episiotomy? I don't even know how to pronounce it anymore. I'm so sorry. Well, I did get one of those, and they're like, it's like that big. Like, seriously, that big. It's not fun. But I'm so glad I just didn't feel it. I just wish he would have warned me that that was going to happen. Or he was at least like, I don't know, told me to close my eyes, because I was like pushing, because of course they're going to do it while they're pushing. And it told me that I should push with my eyes open, because that would help me push more effectively. And I can still see that the scissors going down like this. Not that I felt it or anything like that, but I just remember it, which is horrible. But he was born 2 minutes after midnight. He was like immediately placed into my belly. He cried. Oh my god, he cried. And Logan is waking up right now. So yeah, and at that point, all I did was I just cleaned him up, and the placenta came out right away. Rob caught the placenta, and afterwards Rob had skin to skin with him, because my gynecologist wouldn't let me have him on my belly while they was stitching me up. So yeah, that's basically my labor and delivery story. I probably will upload a video separately with all the pictures, because my stepmom did take some pictures. But since I'm doing this on my iPad, I don't know how to like insert pictures right now. So and that's it. I have to wrap it up because my little man is waking up. If you have any questions about my labor and delivery story, then please leave them down below. And if not, then I will talk to you guys for my 1 week postpartum update or Logan's 1 week of a life update. Okay, bye everyone.